Gears of Time. Gladius Primus of the Adeptus Mechanicus, a devout servant of the Omnissiah, stood among the dunes and regarded the alien ruins. The planet's original name was lost to the obscurity of time, but to Imperial records, it was known as Omicron Gamma 4b. The devastated world bore the scars of an eons-past war. Who the combatants were and what cataclysmic event consigned their race to the burial ground of time was unknown, but the remnants of their shattered civilization were buried beneath the treacherous sands, with their secrets waiting to be discovered. Primus scanned the landscape with an air of solemn reverence. By his side stood his fellow tech priests, Gladius Secundus and Gladius Tertius, their augments glinting under the large orange sun as their red-robed silhouettes blended into the arid scenery of the alien desert. They had found the intact alien structure during their routine archaeological expedition. Concealed for millennia beneath a granular shroud of sand, it had finally revealed itself after the latest of the colossal sandstorms that regularly scoured the planet's surface. It was a huge edifice, an enigma wrought in materials foreign to the tech priest's experience. The wind-worn exterior bore the scars of countless storms. As Primus approached the unearthed structure, a resonance hummed through the air, the echoes of technology long dormant stirring to life. The three tech priests exchanged glances, their augmented eyes narrowing with a shared eagerness. The promise of what they might discover both thrilled and unsettled the servants of the machine god. They found an exposed entrance. It was a massive doorway adorned with alien glyphs that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. With a solemn nod, Gladius Primus raised his augmented hand, fingers adorned with sacred bionics, and gestured towards the huge door. He could feel the transmissions emanating from the structure on a number of wavelengths that would have been imperceptible to those not blessed with the augmentations of the cult Mechanicus. The structure obviously belonged to a people that understood the power and importance of the blessed machine. On the higher end of the electromagnetic spectrum, he reached out and responded. As man and structure made contact in the ether, the bronzed alien metal of the construct responded. The etched, intricate patterns flashed, and the doorway ground open with an otherworldly resonance. The difference in pressure inside the structure caused the surrounding air to be greedily sucked in, as if the abandoned structure had been holding its breath, waiting for Primus's arrival. The opened entrance revealed a long, dark corridor beyond. With the allure of hidden knowledge, Primus made his way into the darkness, Secundus and Tertius at his side. The interior was made from an onyx black stone and adorned with strange symbols and sigils. The alien hieroglyphs seemed to move out of the corner of their eyes, shifting and morphing, but became static and still when looked at directly. Smaller corridors branched off from the main passage, leading to small circular chambers where unfamiliar relics were displayed on dust-covered plinths of polished black stone. They documented and ran cursory scans on the unusual artifacts. Though unquestionably advanced, their purpose and composition seemed undiscernible.
Proposition. This civilization had achieved a level of technological prowess beyond our understanding.
Secundus emitted in the binary language of the machine cult, before Primus cut her off with a deep horn-like hoot.
Consider your words with care, lest you profane the Omnissiah. We are here to investigate and document, not to deliver commentary. Perform your function.
Primus rebuked her. Secundus chimed her acceptance and they went about their work. As they continued, Primus felt the whispers on the electromagnetic wind, a symphony of knowledge and madness as it brushed across the edges of his consciousness. They came in rhythmic pulses, again and again. Primus let them in and allowed a brief communion between man and the eldritch machine in order to triangulate their origin. They were coming from the central chamber, and he allowed the transmissions to draw him to their source. They reached a crescendo when they eventually entered the hall at the end of the long central walkway. The unfamiliar pulses of foreign code became so powerful that Primus had no choice but to block them out. The hall was a vast expanse of what looked like black marble in the shape of a pyramid 50 yards across. The walls converged in a point at their zenith and were decorated with great murals that depicted scenes of galactic majesty and cosmic horror. Frustratingly, Primus's efforts to accurately record them were thwarted. Whenever he focused on them for too long, his ocular implants became overwhelmed with static, forcing him to look away. In the center was a triangular plinth, on top of which was a green crystalline artifact, which palpitated with an eerie green light, like the steady rhythm of a heartbeat. The tech priest's metallic footsteps echoed through the hall when they advanced to get a better look. The closer they approached, the faster the pulsing became, as if the heart of the alien structure raced in anticipation of their approach. The artifact itself appeared solid, but would morph and change shape with each pulse of light, from an irregular polyhedron to a cube, then an octahedron, and back again. Deep inside, barely visible even by Primus's augmented eyes, mesmerizing patterns of light coiled and danced in illuminated displays of the blessed geometry of the Omnissiah. The air around the artifact shimmered, as if reality itself was bending and twisting to contain it as it floated just above the triangular pedestal. Set into each side of the pedestal were two silver discs with molded imprints of stubby three-fingered hands. The tech priests stood in silent awe before the unknown device. Secundus, her augmentations whirring softly, observed the silver discs.
Inquiry. Is it a key, a cipher to unlock the secrets contained within? The very air resonates with the song of the captured machine spirit. It calls to us on the electromagnetic waves to set it free. The Omnissiah's mysteries will be laid bare before us.
Primus spoke, his voice a steady synthesized tone that betrayed no emotion.
It is a thing of the Xenos and alien cognition. It is an abomination. But perhaps it holds a flicker of the Omnissiah's beneficence that we were meant to find. We stand at the precipice of forbidden knowledge. Should we grasp it, or should we strike it down?
Tertius considered his words carefully. His biomechanical parts clicked and beeped as he deliberated internally.
The resonance of the alien technology could unlock lost knowledge. Yet we tread on the precipice of heresy. The machine god's will guides us, but the path is shrouded.
The chamber held a pregnant silence as the tech priests weighed the implications. The artifact's pulsations seemed to echo the heartbeat of the very cosmos, leaving the tech priest standing at the crossroads of either discovery or damnation. Having reached a decision, Primus stepped forward and expectantly thrust his hands onto two of the silver discs. But nothing happened. Primus pulled his hands away.
Hypothesis.
Secundus said,
Perhaps the three stations are to be used concurrently.
Primus beeped his acceptance to the theory, and Secundus and Tertius took up positions on each of the remaining two sides of the triangular plinth. With a synchronized movement, they all placed their hands on the silver discs in front of them. At their touch, the discs lit up as ethereal plumes of radiant light appeared and disappeared all around them. Energy coursing through and up the tech priest's bionic appendages as the crystalline artifact hummed with newfound vitality at their collective touch. The green light of the artifact intensified, and it formed a perfect sphere and expanded until it was 3 times the size of a man. The mesmerizing patterns within the ballooned crystal swirled faster, a kaleidoscope of otherworldly hues and random images. Abruptly, the triangular plinth emitted a harmonic resonance so loud the floor shook as it reverberated throughout the hall. Then, the shifting patterns consolidated into a vision of an ancient battlefield, a panorama of war-torn devastation. As they watched, Astartes turned on Astartes. Bolters roared, chainswords whirred, and the air itself crackled with psychic energy. The very ground quaked beneath the weight of titanic war engines, their metallic roars drowned by the screams of dying soldiers.
What are we witnessing?
Primus asked.
These are Imperial forces,
Tertius said.
Supposition. Judging by the classification of armored vehicles, this is a recording of the Horus heresy. The ability to manufacture those patterns is no longer available,
Secundus suggested. Primus scanned his memory banks to identify the heraldry of the Astartes involved and potentially triangulate the most likely planet.
Affirmative. Fascinating. Indications are this is a representation of events on Istvan V. But why is it showing us thus?
Unclear,
Tertius chimed.
Endeavor to assert control, commune with the machine spirit, and guide it towards the end of this time period,
Primus instructed. The pulsing heartbeat of the artifact quickened as the scenes unraveled and coalesced into a vision of the Bridge of the Vengeful Spirit and the final clash between the Emperor and Horus. With a bright flash, the images abruptly disappeared, and the crystal sphere contracted into its original state of shifting shapes. The three tech priests stood in silence for a moment. The air in the chamber seemed to crackle with residual energy. The green glow of the artifact dimmed and returned to the stable pulsing it had when they had first entered. Primus pulled his hands away and broke the silence.
Truly fascinating. But why would a Xenos race record this?
He asked.
Supposition. It is unlikely they did.
Secundus voiced.
These visions are not a recording. The capability to film all locations and the capacity to store the resulting data is insufficient. Hypothesis. The viewing aperture generates a temporal distortion that allows optical reconnaissance across space and time.
Intriguing thought process,
Primus said.
These visualizations could transcend mere historical records. How best to test that hypothesis?
If it is a temporal lens, we could attempt to see forward as well as back,
Tertius suggested. Primus' augmented eyes narrowed in thoughtful reflection.
Let us begin the experiment. Attempt to channel the machine spirit to reveal that which has not yet been,
Primus said. The three tech priests once again synchronized their movements and communed with the Xenos device, placing their hands upon the silver discs. The air rippled with energy once more as the orb expanded. The visions projected onto its surface writhed as the vision was propelled forward into the unknowable future. The first scene materialized before them, a haunting vision of destruction. The mighty fortress world of Cadia was brought low, shattered under the devastating weight of a star of black stone as it crashed into the surface. The very fabric of reality seemed to warp and tear, signaling the cataclysmic birth of the great rift that cleaved the galaxy in twain. In the wake of this cosmic upheaval, a figure clad in blue and gold power armor emerged. Lord Commander Guilliman, the Primarch of the Ultramarines, stood resolute amidst the chaos. His return heralded a glimmer of hope for the Imperium, a beacon in the darkness that threatened to consume all of humanity. Primus, his mechanical eyes recording every frame of the unfolding events, felt a twinge of uncertainty. With such uncertain times ahead, the tech priest pondered how he would fare in the decades ahead. Reacting to his thoughts, the depiction on the artifact he could see changed to a view of the very hall in which they now stood. He saw Secundus, Tertius, and himself at the pedestal. Without warning, Secundus and Tertius, his fellow tech priests and companions of many years, drew weapons and attacked him. Primus felt a surge of confusion. What did this mean? Why would the artifact show him such a thing? The three tech priests had long worked together, and he had never had reason to doubt their loyalty before. Why would they undertake such action? Primus cogitated. The ability to accurately know the future was a powerful capability. The applications were limitless, as were the opportunities afforded to whoever possessed such access. Perhaps the very position of Fabricator General was not beyond reach. With such a temptation, could they turn on him to keep it for themselves? If this were indeed a vision of the future, there was no could about it. That was precisely the course of action his traitorous fellow tech priests were going to take. The three tech priests looked at one another, their augmented faces obscuring the sudden nervousness with which they regarded one another. Logic dictated that Primus's best course of action was to attack first, while the element of surprise was still his. Primus pulled back from the altar, drew his Volkite pistol and fired. The searing energy from Primus's pistol lanced through the air, targeting Secundus with deadly precision. Her cybernetic enhancements gave her faster-than-human reactions and allowed her to evade the energy beam just in time. A 2-foot-long blade shot from her arm, which crackled with a hazy field of blue energy. She leapt towards Primus, seeking to thrust the power weapon into him. Tertius raised his own las pistol and fired hot bolts of energy towards them both. They were deflected harmlessly by Primus's personal energy shield, but one struck Secundus in the back and she staggered. There was a mighty crack as Primus discharged his Volkite again. The blast hit Tertius with such force that he was thrown back, his flesh melting and his mechanical implants reduced to slag. Secundus brought herself around and slashed out with her bladed arm and severed Primus's gun arm at the elbow. Disarmed but not defenseless, Primus unleashed his mechadendrites. The whirring appendages shot out from his back and moved with a grace that belied their deadly intent as they stabbed deep into Secundus, rending through both meat and machine alike. In her final moments, Secundus drove her power weapon into Primus. With a brutal and deliberate motion, she tore the blade across his midsection, nearly cleaving him in two. Locked in a murderous embrace, the two tech priests met their ends at each other's hands, and the hall once again fell silent, as it had been for eons before the intruders arrived. Above ground, another sandstorm raged. The structure was recovered by a veil of sand, concealing the fate of the missing tech priests from any that would come searching for them. In the hall, the artifact hummed with a malicious satisfaction at its handiwork as it returned to its restful slumber. Due to their mechanical legs, even in death, Primus and Secundus remained upright, like two macabre statues of flesh and steel on display in the Xenos tomb of deception and lies. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, please give a like, and don't forget to subscribe to become a part of our ever-growing Imperium of subscribers.